Hey guys, in this video I will show you how to paint Shrine Luminor. Once it's constructed, the first thing you'll notice is this big ugly seam line right through the island, and you'll want to fill that if you want it to look as good as possible. I tried filling it with middle putt to begin with, but that didn't work, so I ended up using a softer modeling clay and sanding it away so it was a smooth transition. So you'll want to spend time doing that. It takes a long time. It took me 2, 3, 4 hours maybe to get that looking proper, but if you want a good result, then I recommend doing that. And then I did a prime of light grey and did some airbrushing. So I took flat blue to begin with and painted all of the waterfalls and the pond and the water at the top. So this required a little bit of airbrushing. You could probably do it with a brush easy enough, but I wanted some smooth colouring for the water and the rocks, and some of the surfaces are quite hard to get under, so this is just to speed things up. So I sprayed all of the waterfall. Make sure you get the backs too, and the ponds here. It's quite a fun miniature to paint. I really recommend it if you're going to display this or use it for your Lumineth Realm-lords army. Here I took a sky blue and just did a zenithal highlight, so spraying from top down, I just lightly did the bottom part of the waterfalls just to create a little bit of a gradient and keep some of the darker blue in the shadows. We'll be adding some white highlights to the edges soon. And here I sprayed a little bit more light blue in the pond, not near the steps, but closer to the rocks at the front. And then also around the bubbles here on each side. So it's darker in the middle and lighter on either side. And then after that, I covered up all of the blue so I could airbrush the rocks grey. It's quite difficult to cover this, so it's quite an odd shape, so I ended up just using tinfoil that I can kind of mold around the gaps and fold into place and tuck in and under the rocks, and then I just used masking tape to secure that into place. So this took a little time, but I couldn't really think of a better way to do this unless you are just painting with a brush. So first I took a black to do the undercoat for all of the rocks. So this will create all of the shadows. So I painted all of the rocks on the pond. And then for the rock on the back, so this is a stand for the back of the island. So paint that entire thing. And then the big job of doing all of the rock on the island. So get underneath here and get in all of the gaps. And then next I did flat earth brown. This didn't actually end up making much of a difference, so you could skip this step if you want. I thought maybe this would create some tonal variation, some nice browns in the stone. But the grey ended up just kind of covering this up anyway, so this is optional. And then I used these 3 colours to do an undercoat for the shrine. It's got kind of a blue undertone from the box art, so I started with that as an undercoat. And make sure you get these 2 pillars here. So I just got a lighter blue here, and I am zenithal highlighting it again, so spraying from above, just to create some highlights. And then I used bone white to highlight over top of the blue for the shrines. So this kind of created more of a stone colour. So again, I zenithal highlighted this from above to let some of the blue show through in the shadows. Next I took light grey and did the rocks. So spraying from the side and above, making sure that you leave some of that black and brown in. I just did all of the rocks on the 3 pieces. So I didn't mention it earlier, but make sure you keep all the pieces separate, so don't glue them together, as it's a lot easier to paint for now. Yeah, don't overdo the grey, so keep some shadows in there. And then we're going to go back to the shrine and do some white. This is for the real highlights, and then also a little bit for the rocks as well. So spraying directly from above, just hitting the peaks. And then that's all of the airbrushing done. So we'll remove this tinfoil and see if it worked. I'm recording this in the future and I know that it did, so yeah, I can recommend that if you're needing to do some kind of covering for your previous colours. It's not perfect, of course, unless you spent a long time, but we're going to touch these up later anyway, so it doesn't matter, it doesn't need to be perfect. And removing the waterfalls here. This is quite an exciting part because these are the main dominant colours of the miniature, so you kind of get a good understanding of what the whole thing's going to look like at this stage. So yeah, that's a good start. And it creates a nice gradient, the airbrush as well, in the water, which is quite difficult to do with hand brushing. You can see it's darker in those corners. And also the shrine here. And so you can just take those two same colours and then any spill that you have from the grey, just touch it up. So around the rocks here where you can see grey on the blue. And now we're going to do some highlighting for the waterfall. So I took a sky blue here and was quite generous just to fill in lots of the gaps around the edges here, and then slowly lightened it up to do less and less of the highlights. So you could do as many layers as you want here. I did 2 or 3, but to create a nice smooth gradient, I did 2 or 3. And next I took turquoise and Lamian medium just to help blend them together and kind of merged in all of those different layers. Then I took these 3 and did some more shadows in the water. I thought there wasn't enough variation, so I kind of added a little bit of a darker water in the middle here where there were less ripples. Excuse the t-shirts and the material in these shots. Because they're in separate parts, I wanted to have something soft to lay them on. So yeah, that's why I'm putting them onto fabric. And then I highlighted each of the ripples on the top in the same way that I highlighted the ripples going down the waterfall. And then also highlighted the ripples on the pond as well. And again, you can put as much time as you want into this or as little. You could do 2, 3 different kind of colors. And here I'm just fixing up some of the rocks where some of the airbrushing overspilled. Then I took Nuln Oil and Lamian medium to create some more definition in the rocks. So I covered all the rock on the island and let that go into all the gaps, and the rock for the base, and also the ones around the pond. That just helps create some definition and shadows. And then I did a highlight as the final step for the rocks. So I took some white and brushed all of the rocks on the pond, the stand, and the island. Next I took Deck Tan to paint the platform on the shrine, and that will look like this, and also the steps. Then I took Beastly Brown to do the edges of the steps. Those are going to be bronze, so I do the brown as a base coat for that. And also for the symbol on the floor. And that same brown also for all of the dirt areas. So they show on the top of the shrine and around the pond and also around the back rock here. Next I took Nuln Oil and covered all of the flooring here. So I just wanted to create some more definition in the ground, so that will go into the gaps around the tiles. And I also washed the dirt, and then we added some more Deck Tan to the to the floor here just to brighten it up. And then we went over the brown on the floor with bronze. And then I once again highlighted the steps. I didn't think they were quite bright enough. And then I took some white to paint the grass. And also the skull here. Then I took Skeleton Horde once the white was dry and coated all of the grass and also the skull. Next I took Beastly Brown and did all of the tree stumps. So there's a few around the pond and also on the island. And then I gave them a wash to help create some shadow and definition. And then for the leaves I used Goblin Green. And then once they're all dry, take Nuln Oil, and that will create some shadow in those too. Then I took Dick Tan and Beastly Brown to create some highlights for the trees. And I also dry brushed the back of the waterfalls white. I didn't put all the detail into doing that because you don't see the back so much, so you can put as much work into it as you want. If you want to do what you did for the front of the waterfall, you could, but I didn't think it was necessary. And then we're painting the golden pieces on the shrine here, so undercoat it with Deck Tan. And this is a light gold, so I mixed silver and gold together. And we have the Deck Tan undercoat and then the silver gold overcoat. And that matches these miniatures here that I've been using for my Lumineth Realm-lord miniatures. And then for the middle parts here, I've undercoated it with a yellow and then gold on top, just to create a bit of variation between the gold colours. Next I took a sepia wash. I didn't cover all of the gold parts, just the dark gold symbols, the moon and the sun here. And I ended up using it to create some more shadow around these parts. So under where some of the ridges are on these pillars, just around the indented piece, and under the shrine here, so it creates a shadow. Then I created a wash to create some variation in the shrine. So I wanted to make some of these indents a bit darker, so anywhere there was a pattern or symbols, I filled with that style wash. And I ended up using it over in these recesses too. And as you can see, the paint was quite thick, so I ended up just adding some extra Lamian medium just to water it down more. And that goes into all of the cracks and crevices and creates some nice definition. And I did it all around here too. As you can see, the paint was a bit too thick and it was too dark. So once again, I just got more Lamian medium, watered that down until I had a desired result, and let that kind of age the stone. So you could do as little or as much as you want to give it the desired darkness or aged look. Then I gave it all a highlight. And don't forget to do the same process with these two pillars on the island. And when you're done with that, it'll look like this. Next I took a silver and just edged highlight the bronze. Run a brush around the symbol here as too, just to make it look like it had been worn off from some use. Maybe someone's been walking on those steps. And the last step is to add some green tufts. So I tried to match this guy's style and paint job to my miniatures here. So by using those subtle touches of pale gold and the trim around the shrine, he matches the gold from my army, who I also have a painting guide on if you want to see how I painted the miniature here. But yeah, this was a really fun miniature to paint, and it's one of the biggest pieces in my display cabinet. And for the size, it's not that hard to paint and construct, so it's really great as a display piece, and yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'd recommend it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.